Anna-Sophie, if you could give us sort of a précis with 5 keywords or key phrases to describe what you're currently working on at the moment.
Hi, I'm Anna-Sophie. Thanks for having me here. I'm a senior lecturer in science communication, studying science and pop culture. And in a few words, I would say I focus on the cultural meanings of science with the aim to better understand how pop cultural narratives about science have affected the public discourse and understanding of science, and thus our science-society relationship. I study science and humor. This includes violent clowns and comic mad scientists. I'm interested in visual fictions and images of science, for example, in relation to street art and science communication, humans imitating machines for comic effect, and humor and environmental awareness.
Brilliant. All right. That's a great, concise intro. So let's maybe just move on to the next question then, because it really goes back to what you just said, Anna-Sophie, which is you're obviously working on a lot of different things and you're writing, as I also know, on a lot of different, journals, publication platforms, outlets, whatsoever. So you're writing a lot for stuff like The Conversation. So could you maybe talk to us a bit about, so it's not traditionally, like I would say, like the standard academic outlet to write for. So when you're writing for The Conversation, and full disclosure, I've read your Santa Claus piece, I was thinking last year, yeah. I love that. So I thought, why not ask Anna-Sophie a bit about, so what does it feel writing for something like The Conversation, where, it's quite a bit different to maybe like standard academic journals or papers. Can you maybe talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so different publication platforms address different audiences, and the audience, of course, has a big influence on your writing style, your vocabulary, sentence structures, for example. So if you write for The Conversation, you should have that non-expert audience in mind. And if I remember correctly, The Conversation invites you to write sentences that are no longer than 11 words. So there are actually some recommendations on their website. But really, it's about the audience. And as a science communication scholar, we are really interested in addressing different audiences. And that might include artists and younger audiences, for example. And that shapes your style, yeah.
So what is different about writing for that kind of publication rather than, say, for like a academic book publication?
Everything might be different. This can include the framing. You might start with a different type of hook. For example, this can include a contemporary topic. Even if you talk about historical issues, you might want to start with something that draws in your audience and excites the public imagination about your topic. While if you address a more scholarly journal, for example, that is interested in historical issues, you might want to start with a historical piece of information and hook.
The next question, it's sort of a multi-part way to follow on. I'd be interested to know what your process is in terms of creating and thinking through the material that you work on for these different outlets, and what the sort of knowledge process is, and by which I'm sort of curious to know, how do you decide what goes where and why? And that could be in terms of picking which topics for which outlets, or maybe part of what you were talking about with the hook.
Yeah, that's a monumental question, and you kind of partly answered that. I would say it depends on the project, but it normally starts with curiosity, curiosities, and curious people on different levels and in different contexts. So asking questions, wondering, synthesizing, boundary spanning are key parts to within this process and to make these decisions. You might find something that is strange and provocative, and you want to know why is it strange, what is its meaning, and that might shape your entire writing and also the media outlet or publication outlet that you choose. So it really depends on the project. Sometimes you are invited to contribute to a book, for example, to Ben's book, but you might also be invited to be part of a special issue, and that has a certain topic, and you address that topic in particular. Sometimes it's the medium that shapes your direction. For example, if I want to study science in Joker comics and I want to focus on the comics and the panels and the artwork itself or themselves, I might want to choose a journal that is specializing in comic studies. And so there might be a topic that is key, or it might be the medium, or sometimes it might be the broader discipline. So in my case, I publish in pop cultural outlets, but also in science communication journals. So topic, medium, audience aspects to keep in mind.
Right. And I mean, that gets us to the next question quite organically. And I think it's just funny because, to people who won't see this, so we're recording on a Zoom call, and I see over Anna-Sophie's, I guess, left shoulder, a post of Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. And I thought this was so funny. You just saying that you're writing about the Joker and interested in that topic as well, because I know Anna-Sophie, again, I love the way that you're doing all these different things, yet they're really tightly bundled and focused through the same lens of, this is the next question here about humor and fun. And so how do humor and fun factor into your research? Because I know you said before, you're working in science communication, which means you activate lots of, was it one of your symposia? You activate lots of different knowledges, not necessarily that traditionally in the humanities, where it's like, oh, you shall not leave your discipline. You stay there and then you get higher than that discipline. But what kind of knowledges do you find in humor and fun that help you work across all of your disciplines, from clownery, I guess, circus, to all of that? So can you maybe talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm interested, and I've always been interested in extreme characters in culture. So I wrote my master's thesis on the intricate connections between aerial acrobatics and mythology in late 19th century decadent fiction, which features gender-bending, grotesque, and outrageous characters. And that's when I realized that there was really no comprehensive research on circus and fiction at that time, in Germany in particular. And so I wrote my dissertation on circus and fiction and hyperbolic aesthetics and hyperbolic circus aesthetics. So I became fascinated by clowns, especially violent clowns, within this process. And
I just love the fact of violent clowns. I think
but violent clowns, they have an intricate and fascinating and complex, captivating history on various stages in the circus and beyond in different media. And they embody a comedy, or a type of comedy, that is not always funny. When they engage in violent delights on popular stages, you have a comic frame and you're allowed to laugh, and it may be funny,
right.
But take away that comic frame and it's something else. There's laughter that is empty, that is violently applied, that is so exaggerated that violence within these fictional frames, I have to say, so we talk about fiction, representation, depictions, stories, and that violence, for example, in slapstick films, can become so exaggerated that it is comedy again. And I'm fascinated by the ambiguity of laughter and the ambivalences around clowning, for example, and they're actually very complex phenomena. And while studying all these phenomena, I realized that mad scientists are a different facet of these violent clowns in many of our pop cultural stories. So they share aesthetics, they share storylines, and ethical questions as well.
I just love the map because, again, full disclosure, Anna-Sophie, as is Will, are contributing a chapter to an edited essay collection. Again, a different story, a different time. But again, it's all about the Joker. It's about mad science. It's about mad laughs and violent laughter. It's unsettling, but that's what makes it so fun, so interesting, I guess.
Yeah, and science has influenced and generated rich and fascinating comic traditions in popular culture. And it's just amazing to unpack how humor and comic performance, on the other hand, have also shaped cultural ideas of science and so-called science humor. So there are so many links between popular entertainment spaces, science demonstrations, and these stories we tell about science in different media. So there's this major cultural narrative of the mad scientist, Frankensteinian traditions, of looming techno-apocalypse, of wild running AI, technology running amok, Terminators, infamous tripods. But we also have been approaching science through humor for over centuries, many decades. And I'm interested in telling these stories that are linked to humor and that tell us a bit more about pop culture as a vehicle for science communication.
And I mean, again, this is, again, so fascinating because I know that so many people are working on this. I hear from early career people in particular, and always the same thing comes up. It's like, oh, I feel like a bit isolated, I'm like an outlier in my discipline because I'm working on this humor thing or that. And I think, like, having talked to you a bit about this in detail, you're working on your monograph, and I guess that's another podcast. When that is done, we come back. But it's really, I guess, why we're also doing the podcast is to really show people. So there are these, let's call them unusual projects, and they get done. It's just a matter of really, I guess, with your biography, as you were just saying, you have to kind of oscillate, I guess, between these different areas, and you find that interesting spot to tell those stories from. But again, as I look at the timer, we don't have the time. Will, over to you at the last and final questions. We have about 3 minutes left for that.
Okay, well, that works out perfectly. So the final question is, you're writing about this sort of nexus of pop culture and science, and you have mentioned that there's sort of this sensation of walking a tightrope. Can you maybe elaborate on quite why? I mean, this, again, links back to what you were talking about, but can you maybe elaborate on why it does sort of have that sense about it for you?
Walking a tightrope was actually not my expression, but an idea and image the author who wrote about me came up with. But the idea behind is that I'm interested in building bridges between distant galaxies, if you want, wormholes between universes, and I'm interested in connecting giants and dwarfs, to stick to the universe metaphor, and to really make different areas talk to each other and explore the connections. And they might sound distant, but in fact, science and popular entertainment are part of the most powerful cultural institutions that we have developed to understand and shape and really envision our world. So that's why we discuss our anxieties and fears and desires about science and technology, and where we talk about our collective ideas about science and also humor. So it is maybe a tightrope, but also a bridge. And at the ANU, I created the Popsicule, our science and pop culture and entertainment hub, where we invite people, scholars, artists, but also students, and really everyone who's interested in this space to collaborate and to become a popsiculist and to go pop with us in different media and across different platforms. So if you listeners are interested, check out the Popsicule website. Just search for ANU Popsicule to find out more and to explore and excite the public imagination about science with us. And actually, to end with a quote from the Muppets, I could even add, that's where the future is being made today.
Right. Couldn't have been smooth as a transition. We go from the Joker to the Muppets, right to the Ant-Man scientist, Frankenstein, and a bit of Miss Piggy. Right. Thanks so much, Anna-Sophie. That was brilliant. We thank you so much for your time. Will, any departing words for this episode?
Ending on the Muppets is really the best way to do it. You can't. I can't top the Muppets. Can't go wrong with a Muppet.
Right, I agree. All right, thanks so much, Anna-Sophie, for being with us here at the 5 in 15. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, and bye.